Leader Central shows.
Mr. President, I stand under Order 43 and I read thus. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there must be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I stand here to formally and sadly announce the demise of a distinguished senator, Senator Ahmed Mukhtar Arua, who passed on in the early hours of 9th of December 2018, and he has since been buried. Senator Arua served as a distinguished senator in this chamber from 1999 to 2007. He was a colleague to many of the distinguished senators who are here. He has served with dignity, honor, and distinction. He was a philanthropist, a businessman, and a man who many of his colleagues will attest to his uprightness of character. I and the whole of this chamber will join the family in mourning the demise of this great statesman, and also to celebrate his accomplishment as a statesman who has served his country dutifully, willingly, and also in all commitment. Mr. President, Senator Ahmed Arua was a man who has done a lot and has impacted a lot in the lives of the people he represented. He was also a man who has made good friends, and friends here will attest to his character and his service. I will request honorably that this Senate do send a delegation to condole with the family and to also pray for the repose of his soul. Thank you very much.
Yeah, distinguished colleagues, unfortunately lost one of our colleagues who served his constituency, served the country meritoriously and selfless service. And now with that, I would like us to please rise and observe 1 minute silence for the departed soul. Gentle, so rest in perfect peace. Yeah. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Presidential Program on Rehabilitation and Reintegration, Establishment and Implementation Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Presidential Program on Rehabilitation and Reintegration, Establishment and Implementation Bill 2018, HB 482, first reading.
Presidential Program on Rehabilitation and Reintegration, Establishment and Implementation Bill 2018, HB 482, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Gershom Basi on the Nigerian Research Institute of Fisheries and Aquatic Bakassi Establishment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigeria Research Institute of Fisheries and Aquatic Bakassi Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 711, first reading.
Nigerian Research Institute of Fisheries and Aquatic Bakassi Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 711, first reading taken. Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of the following persons for appointment as members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The nominees are 1. Nda Sule Moses, member. 2. Law Mama, member. 3. Galadanchi Imam Najib, member. And 4. Adeleke Rafiu, member. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 23rd of October, 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Chukwuka Utazi, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report. I so move.
Senator Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North and Province of Enugu State. Mr. President, I rise to move motion that the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, that the Senate consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on confirmation of the following nominees for appointment as members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in accordance with Section 210 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Supplement Act 2004. I so move.
Senator Gamade.
Mr. President, my name is Barnabas Gamade. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes and the confirmation of the nominees so listed by the chairman, Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the confirmation of the following nominees for appointment as members of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, in accordance with Section 210 of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission Establishment Act 2004. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Tazi, present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of nominees for confirmation as members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. 1.0. The Senate, at its sitting on Thursday, 15 December 2016, deliberated on a request by Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, for the confirmation of nominees as members of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and referred same to the committee to screen the nominees and report back. The nominations were made pursuant to Section 210 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act of 2004, which requires the appointment, in addition to other institutional members, of 4 eminent Nigerians with cognate experience in any of finance, banking, law, or accounting. The 4 nominees were 1. Ndasule Moses. 2. Lawan Maman. 3. Galadinchi Imam Najib. And 4. Adeleke Adebayo Rafiu. The committee requested and received from the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters the following document from the nominees: curriculum vitae, the clearance from the Department of State Security, police report, code of conduct, acknowledgement slip, other relevant documents. Screening of the nominees. The nominees appeared before the committee for screening on Wednesday, 18 January 2017 in room 115, Senate wing of the National Assembly. Briefing. Before the commencement of the screening, the chairman of the committee informed the nominees of the requirements of the law in relation to their nomination and explained that the purpose of the screening was in accordance with the Constitution and the Establishment Act of the Commission, with the objective to determine their suitability, integrity, and competence for the position for which they were nominated. The screening was to be conducted in the open with access to the media and public. The committee, after studying the curricula vitae of the nominees along with other relevant documents, invited them individually for screening. Number 1, Ndasule Moses. The nominee was born in Kaduna, but hails from Basa, local government area. I jump all these ones, Mr. President, with your due, I go to observations. The nominees, the observation 4.3. 1. The nominees gave in-depth responses to the questions asked by the members of the committee and of the value they will add to policy formulation and operations in the EFCC. 2. The committee is satisfied that the nominees have the requisite experience, integrity, professional competence, and industry to discharge the functions of the positions they were nominated into. 3. The committee noted that there was no adverse security report against any of the nominees, and the scrutiny of all the documents submitted to the committee showed that the nominees possess the necessary academic and administrative experience to excel. 4. The committee observed that the 3 out of the 4 nominees were from the North Central, Northeast, and Northwest geopolitical zones, with only 1 nominee from the southern part of Nigeria, that's Southwest. The committee knows that this is not in strict compliance with the federal character principle enunciated by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as provided for in section 14(3) of the Constitution. The committee makes this observation to guide the executive in future nominations. Recommendation. After a thorough scrutiny of all relevant documents of the nominees and subsequent to the performance of the nominees during interaction with the members of the committee is satisfied with the nominees' qualifications, experience, and suitability. The committee therefore recommends that the Senate do confirm the appointment of 1. Ndasule Moses, 2. Lawan Maman, 3. Galadinchi Imam Najib, and 4. Adeleke Adebayo Rafiu as members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. So we so recommend.
Yes, and conclusion.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Rabi Musa Konkoso, representing Kano Central. Mr. President, I stand to support the recommendation of this committee, especially that I'm very conversant with one of the members, the recommended members of this commission. I know him to be somebody of substance and somebody with a lot of credibility, and therefore I very much support the recommendation of the committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barao Jibrin, I represent Kano North. So, President, I stand to commend the work done by the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes of the Senate. They've done a wonderful job in screening these individuals. And I want to say, based on the resume and pedigrees of these individuals, they are eminently qualified, very, very qualified to go on to do this job. I want to vouch for at least the number 3 candidate here, Galarenchi Imam Najib, who is someone that I know very well, and someone that has the required character to occupy this position. And as I said earlier, based on the resume of all of them, they are all qualified to assume this office they are intended to occupy. I therefore support and commend the committee members for doing a fine job, and urge all my colleagues to support this report so that we can give them the nod to go ahead to do the job as assigned to them based on the request by Mr. President. Without much ado, I so submit, Mr. President.
Any other comments? Oh yes, Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, I want to draw the attention of the committee report on paragraph 4 of this report. Meanwhile, I've looked at the CVs of the 4 nominees, and I want to say that they have very rich background and experience and education to work in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. But I find paragraph 4 in page 6 of this report very worrisome. The committee noted that 3 out of the 4 nominees from the North Central were from the North Central, Northeast, Northwest, and Southwest geopolitical zones. 1 nominee is from the Southwest, that is Mr. Deleke Adebayo Rafiu. Mr. President, the committee noted that this composition of this commission is not in accord with the provision of section 14.3 of the Constitution, which deals on federal character. Mr. President, we know that the chairman of this commission, or the acting chairman of this commission, is from the Northeast. So there are now 4 from the North, if you go by the committee report. And just 2 weeks ago, this Senate confirmed the nomination of the secretary to the commission. That secretary to the commission is from the Southwest. And in the membership in this commission, we have Adeleke again from the Southwest. The Southeast and the South-South are obviously not accommodated in the commission. Mr. President, we have continued to say this, that if there is need to accommodate all parts of Nigeria in activities of government, particularly in appointing people to agencies of government. That has been the practice in this chamber. And on this issue of fight against corruption, Mr. President, this commission is a very important commission, because the fight against corruption involves all parts of Nigeria. People are investigated from all parts of Nigeria. It will not be nice if we begin to constitute a commission that will fight corruption to the satisfaction of all Nigerians, and some parts of Nigeria are not represented in the commission. If you look at this composition, Mr. President, without saying the obvious, some people may think that the war against corruption is instituted for them. Only them will be the people that will be dealt with. Because in an agency like this, the absence of a representative from the South-South and the Southeast can show you clearly that if you are the one to be investigated, you will come into the commission, you won't even see somebody to tell you good morning before they take your briefcase from you. So I think it is important that in doing this, particularly as the committee observed it, that there is need to take people from the other geopolitical zones into the commission. I know there may be constraint as to number, but if we have a chairman from the Northeast, we go again to have a member from the Northeast. We have a secretary from the Southwest. We go and take a member from the Southwest. Mr. President, this thing is not good. I want us to bear this in mind, that in dealing with important issues like this, corruption is the serious challenge Nigeria is facing. And people who will fight corruption in this country will be drawn from all the parts of the country. So that if they're investigating somebody from the Northeast, for example, there is a chairman from the Northeast from that commission, there is a member from the Northeast. Somebody from the South-South should be able to ask important questions about the suspect. Somebody from the Southeast should ask important questions about the suspect, vice versa. If you have somebody from the Southeast that's being investigated, somebody from the Northeast who is the chairman should make sure that that person is properly investigated. So I want to say that this composition, not being in accord with the federal character principle, the Senate should not go and approve nominations from chairman from Northeast, a member from Northeast, secretary to the commission from Southwest, a member from the Southwest, and 2 geopolitical zones will be left out. This corruption should be fought with every force available. There should be no sacred cow, and there should be no preferential treatment. This is my observation to this report. And I believe that it is not late, since the committee screened these people in 2017. In 2017, there's nothing wrong with the Senate returning this nomination to the president. After all, we have amended the Electoral Act several times, and the president returned them. This one is not good. Let us return this report to the president with these observations. Good enough, all things returned to us were made with observations. The Senate should be bold enough to return these nominations to the president with observations that Lawan Maman is from Northeast, and the acting chairman of the commission is from Northeast. And another observation that Mr. Deleke Adebayo, a member nominated, is from the Southwest, and that we have approved a secretary to the commission from Southwest. We will further observe that the South-South and the Southeast have nobody in this commission. This war against corruption is against everybody that is corrupt. There should be no preferential treatment in the management and running of EFCC. I so submit with utmost respect to my distinguished colleagues in this chamber. Let us not proceed as if we see good people who say yes. Human beings have the tendencies of preferential treatment to their brothers, and we will not allow that in EFCC. So I would like these nominations to be stood down and returned with these observations, so that the president will draw members from South-South and Southeast, and remove Adeleke from Southwest because there's a secretary to the commission from Southwest, drop Lawan Maman from Northeast, and put somebody from the Southeast because the chairman of the commission is from the Northeast. I so submit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Rogidi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Matthew Rogide. I represent Edo South Central District. Mr. President, at the risk of sounding repetitive, because Senator Victor Omer already mentioned, what really I was going to say very extensively, I think for the purpose of emphasis, it is good that when an observation, is very relevant, the need for us to say it again and again and again. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we are all here to represent different interests in this country. We represent different senatorial districts, different people, and of course what is uppermost in our mind, apart from making law for the good governance of this country, it is important that the interests of our own constituencies must be defended to the hilt. On this note, Mr. President, even though I'm a member of this committee, and the Nigerians too that have been recommended for confirmation are very, qualified, personalities. But Mr. President, the distribution of these persons across the geopolitical zones of this country is wrong. Very wrong. Mr. President, you will recall that some time ago, when we're considering the confirmation of some nominees that were sent to the chamber by Mr. President, there almost was an altercation between the Senate leader and, of course, some other members of the Senate. He said, let us look at this in the bigger picture. And then, Mr. President, you set up another committee to look at the distribution of these offices across the 6 geopolitical zones of this country in conformity with the provisions of the federal character principle in the Constitution. Up to today, we have not received that report. And you can see that it is coming again and again and again and again. For us not to have anybody from the South or from the Southeast in the EFCC, what does that portend? That these are the criminals. You are taking people from other geopolitical zones to, of course, come and investigate them. This is the picture that is being painted. And it is wrong. And on this note, Mr. President, I am saying that this thing is stood down until we compel the executive to send nominations that will reflect federal character principle in our constitution. This one must not go again. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think before the chairman, maybe you guide us whether maybe there are other members that are for other zones, maybe so why don't you just give us more information so that before people start contributing, you can guide everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. You say this issue is very sensitive, Mr. President. You remembered last time we had the issue of lopsided appointments in this country, coming from Mr. President. We asked a committee here, to go and look at all the appointments that have been made under this present administration and come back and inform the Senate with the standing of each geopolitical zone. That committee has not done that job up to now. That committee has gone underground. That committee has refused to come and inform the Senate about the lopsidedness of appointment in the district. Coming to the issue at the ground, we have 6 committees. We have 6 members, very principal members there. The chairman is one, and then you have the secretary. The law, it says 4 persons. The law says that 4 persons, eminently qualified persons, should be appointed from this country. And we know that we have a chairman. We have outside this 4, you have a chairman. You also have a secretary that comes for confirmation. So we have 6 positions. 6 positions can go around the 6 geopolitical zone, 1, 1, 1, 1. If we do so, we'll be doing substantive justice. But to have it the way it is and lopsided, it doesn't go well for this country. It doesn't give a sense of belonging to all parts of the country. That's just what I have to say.
Okay. Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very respected colleagues. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I really sympathize with this situation. Sir, I want to point out one thing. Whatever we do, and in fact I don't want to blame our committee, whatever we do, we are guided by the laws. When our committee worked hard to screen the EFCC nominees, I'm sure the committee was conscious of what the law says. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I will advise that we go strictly by what our committee has presented. Secondly, on this, we could decide to amend the law. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, if you look at the ICPC nominations, the Northeast has nobody. Southeast has 2.
Northwest.
Northwest 2.
North Central 2.
Southwest 2.
North Central 2.
Mr. President,
I agree with you. We should allow this.
very distinguished colleagues, it appears that this is universal. I will advise in this respect as well that we pass this as presented, but correct the defects here to ensure equal distribution. That is to say that each geopolitical zone would have a representation. But as it is now, the law is not infringed upon. We are guided by the law, and I think only an amendment can cure it. Thank you very much.
Question. If there are no comments, okay, Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Naya Baribe, representing Abia South, and also the chairman of the Southeast Caucus. The reason why I emphasize chairman of the Southeast Caucus is that when we stand up here to speak, I do hope that at all times that we will put the interest of Nigeria first. A situation has been pointed out that has affected everybody, and a situation in which we want to cure. And it doesn't make for good relations within this country for us to say, let us go strictly by the law. The law insists, and that is why we have a Federal Character Commission, that everything must be balanced. And we're looking at this particular instance. And this instance is totally against the Federal Character principle that binds this country together. And we don't think that mere sophistry or just being, okay, let us leave it, tomorrow we will deal with it. When will tomorrow come? When will tomorrow come? Because at every time we are told, leave it, tomorrow we will do it. And yet, we have a government that is supposed to be committed to the tenets of this country. And so, Mr. President, I continue to join my colleagues to say that we must stand down this and we must reconsider these omissions. Finished. For my colleagues and my members who may disagree, yes, you can use your powers today, but don't come back and cry tomorrow, because everybody is affected by this. Each and every one of us is affected by this. And I reiterate, no consideration should be given to this paper until we can reconsider the way these nominations came. I so submit.
Distinguished colleagues, the comments of Senator Abari is noted, but honestly, if you look at the law of the commission, the section 2.0, I think the law, maybe what we should be looking at is how to correct such laws, because it just says 4 eminent Nigerians with cognate experience in any of the following, that is finance, banking, and accounting. But I think at the same time, look, we all know that there should be equity in these kind of issues, and what we should do are 2 things. One, on our own part, to see how we can amend this kind of law. But I think with all the sense of responsibility to those that advise the president when they pick up this name should show concern and show that they think of Nigeria in doing this. And we must, the two, something wrong has been done, and they should take note in future to ensure that this kind of thing should not happen again. But I think we are constrained to let us move ahead with this. We take the note, and it's not about just let's show sensitivity. To just say put the question, we're not showing sensitivity to this issue. We should show sensitivity to these issues, and then we move ahead. So if not, leader, if we go to committee of the whole and consider.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves into committee of the whole to consider the report. I so move.
Let me just before we move, let me give privileges to those that have privileges. Senator Ndube, I'll give you a special privilege. Don't we have put the motion, but let's give you privileges. Yes.
Mr. President, thank you very much. It's not actually use or abuse of privilege, but distinguished colleagues, we are senators. These nominees, after submission to the Senate, was referred to the committee. The committee should have done its work. We don't have to come here and grandstand. When this thing happened, the committee, the chairman is from Southeast, and we are talking about shortchanging the Southeast. The chairman was there. He should have talked to you or the leadership. If they observe this, that would have been corrected, not necessarily coming here. If you look at it again, as Senate leader pointed out, I think by the time we refer to the committee, this work is supposed to be part of the committee's job, to make this observation and bring it to the leadership so that the leadership can, call the attention of those that brought the nominee, and they would have corrected this. Why do we have to do this here now? If you look at it, Southeast has 2 members from...
Senator Dume, I didn't read. Your contribution has not helped. Okay, I noted. Let's say no. Please, Senator Aduda, do you second that motion?
Mr. President, I have something to say, please. I have something to say. Mr. President. I have something to say, Mr. President. As the chairman, I'm the chairman. Please listen. I talked about the chairman. Let me respond to him. Let me respond to what he said. Mr. Chairman, I am Senator Otaze. I represent the people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. No. He made something.
Senator Otaze, when we go to committee, I will allow you to comment on it, okay? Senator Aduda.
That the Senate do move into the committee of the whole to consider this report as second.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
DSP.
All right. Distinguished colleagues.
It's okay. Please.
Order.
Sorry, distinguished colleagues. Can I say something? It's okay.
Sorry, I had to travel. And I had to send my contribution to that you are checking. Did they give you?
Point of order. Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order. Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order. We can't continue to divide this country. We are dividing this country.
Distinguished colleagues. I'm coming. Yes, point of order, Senator Tazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Point of order. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm speaking on order 15, privilege. I'm speaking on privilege. Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking on privilege. Any senator may arise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move. Privilege. Privilege. Sit down here. Sit down here. No. Where's the report? I'm speaking, I have the floor. I have the floor. Privilege. I'm speaking on privilege. I'm speaking on privilege. I'm speaking on privilege. I have the floor. I have the floor.
You have a rowdy floor.
I have the floor. I have the floor. Marafagan, sit down. 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 I have the floor. I have the floor.
Sit down.
I have the floor. Around the floor. I've been allowed by my chairman to say something.
They gave me a rowdy floor.
That is not it. Marafa, you are lying. Marafa.